everyone and welcome. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about the main theme is the Mercury retrograde that is just about to begin next week. But I'm also going to be mentioning a little bit about the Saturn and Neptune retrograde, the bigger picture. And then I'm going to be going into detail about the upcoming Mercury retrograde. Now, this is not going to be a very easy moment for anyone as in externally or internally, collectively or personally, because too many retrograde energies hit at the same time. And, Mercury is one of the most important planets in astrology, even though, even myself included, many times we don't speak about Mercury as much as we should or would or could. We don't include Mercury very many times in the big picture when it is not doing something very relevant. But in a way, Mercury is like a permanent background tone energy. So Mercury in our lives is something that we are hooked into 24/7. All of us, as in every human being, in a certain degree is mercurial. So I'm not actually speaking about the Gemini and Virgo in our personal charts, but rather even beyond this, even beyond astrology and that's the astrological logic. Humankind is very strongly, especially in this day and age, guided and ruled by the mind, and anything and everything that the mind does, and communication is as important in this day and age as breathing. So you see how Mercury, everything is Mercury. Mercury, in a certain way, runs the whole show, but the whole show also burdens Mercury more than anyone or anything else. So that's why Mercury retrogrades are very strongly felt. Even people who normally, and not that they don't believe in astrology, they don't have to believe in astrology. Many people have this very strong, I'm not even sure the best wording for it, presence or being, right? Being, like the ability to be in the present, in matter, in life, in as in here and now. Well, those people many times are not very strongly and directly, especially psycho-emotionally speaking, impacted by astrological energies, especially retrogrades. I am not saying that retrogrades are not playing out in their lives. What I'm saying is that they're psycho-emotionally not very sensitive to it. However, some retrogrades, like this they're hitting everyone. They're really hitting everyone one way or another. Well, let's start with the most influential energy, which is actually Saturn. And Saturn is our structures. Saturn is anything that's stable and solid in our bones, our teeth, our spine. Saturn is our ability to work. Saturn is our ability to sacrifice, but also our boundaries, keeping danger, harm, any shape and form and expression of it outside our personal wall, so to speak. So, and Saturn entered new territory. So that's why we're feeling it very strongly, because not only has Saturn entered new territory, it entered one of the most important degrees of the zodiac, 0 degrees of Aries, the creational degree. what needs to become material in the sense that be part of our material plane, whatever shape and form, well, it enters through that portal of that 0 degrees of Aries. So not only has Saturn has touched on this, but it's also hanging out, not directly at 0, but not far from it. So 2, almost 3 degrees of Aries, but by now it's at 1 degree 55 minutes. And now means the 18th of July when Mercury retrograde begins. That's the date I've chosen. Uh, so yes, touching at that 0 degrees of Aries, so very, very important. On one hand, the world stage. That's the world stage. That's where big initiations take place. On the other hand, that's the self. Self, anything. Self-defense, sovereignty of the self, independence, individuality, etc., etc. And the Aries is a very earthly, I don't want to say low energy because we make it low. On its own, it doesn't need to be low, but it is very, very, very primal. So it's feisty, it's intense, it takes very quick action. So Saturn retrograde is where the action, either that has been taken from May until the present moment, is revised greatly, and this more for the world stage. And personally speaking, the actions that we want to take, the actions that we already put on the table in the sense of a plan, a scheme, a design, a personal date, personal contemplation, what I need to do and when and how and the details. Saturn is not the details, but the grand design of things needed the details, especially I'm speaking about the Saturn Jupiter square that also took place when Saturn entered new territory and Jupiter entered new territory. But for Jupiter is not as new than as for Saturn. However, Jupiter is in exaltation, so Jupiter matters. Anyway, Jupiter is said to Saturn, you need to have the small details and the nitty-gritty as well to get the plan right. So in order for the plan to be right, Saturn is going retrograde. And as I said, things stop. We are called to, on one hand, resolve the nitty-gritty that we need in order to make important progress. And important, like Saturn always can be associated building a house. More so now than ever, 0 degrees of Aries and stuff like that. You know, really, truly, for many people, it's building a house or building something. You need to get the foundations right. And then you need to get all the materials and all the things acquired before prices go up or etc. etc. So that's Saturn retrograde. Let us mention a few dates about Saturn. Um, so it entered into Aries on the 25th of May, retrograde on the 13th of July, 2025, of course. Then around 31st of August, it reaches 0 degrees of Aries again, retrograde. So that is gonna be an important moment, especially on the world stage. Uh, but still not something final because the final moment is around the 14th of February 2026 when Saturn moves back direct this time to the 0 degrees of Aries. So that is going to be the most important moment. but anything that happens is setting that up now. So, because these retrogrades are all together, it's gonna feel very, very intense. So this is Saturn part, but we cannot forget about Neptune, who went retrograde on the 7th of July. Now, Neptune's retrograde is playing out in such a relevant way, especially collectively, because Neptune is the same with 0 degrees of Aries as Saturn. I'm not going to repeat it. Just replace Saturn with Neptune and Neptune's principle. The illusion, the dream, the meaning that we give life, the meaning that we receive from the tumultuous experiences in life, connection to the divine, connection to the spirit, the artist within us, but a spirit of compassion, communion, but also, Neptune, deception, lie, the fake, addiction, the victim, that which drowns us, that which, sedna, basically, the deep forever. Let me give you an example. Someone enters into a coma and stays for many years. That's besides other, also a Neptunian energy. So, yep. And Neptune, along with Pisces, many times rules prisons, institutions, hospitals, co-ruled by Mercury. I'm not contradicting mainstream astrology, but Neptune also rules that, because Neptune is the suffering, the pure psychological suffering of being confined, or whatever that means to the person. So Neptune, and we could see Neptune and Saturn together, especially in the sign of Pisces, where they're both retrograding to, is definitely prison. And we can see this play out in the world stage. Now, I'm not opinionating this. I'm just saying it. United States, detentions and stuff like that. Well, on one hand, prison confinement has a lot to do with that part. And the other side of this is Neptune, psychological fear, terror, survival Aries. But then we can, uh, the war in Iran, prisons were hit. Prisoner exchange in any wars. So prisons and institutions that confine and contain. So again, nuclear facility, hit, lost containment, right? So Neptune and Aries are gonna go back to Pisces, where if 0 of Aries is the beginning, 29 of Pisces is the end. So something revised. So we're getting a last shot at the psychology of the past 2 years. I know it's more, but I'm gonna reduce it to the past 2 years. Let's not get into astrological detail, because then we have to include Neptune's transit in Pisces. And no. Let's just reduce it to the past 2 years, because the past 2 years were also relevant in Neptune transit, because it hung out at the 29 degrees of Pisces, where the big conclusion in your life, your journey, but also anything that is part of your life, the world, our time, society, where we're going, what's wrong in the world, everything, conspiracies, what I believe, religion, everything is Neptune. So all of us had big, massive conclusions in this sense. Ignoring Saturn for, actually, we don't need to ignore Saturn, because Saturn was the star of the show. COVID. Saturn wasn't in Pisces, it was in Capricorn, holding the conjunction with Pluto, but Neptune was very much in Pisces. The illusion, the reality, the two meeting, merging, the split in consciousness, mass consciousness, and all the mass hysteria and mass psychosis that has been playing out. And I don't mean just the COVID, because the COVID is ancient history. What we are seeing today is fine example of mass psychosis. So something happens, and literally, I'm not exaggerating. And in anything, I'm not speaking about the wars and the politics, anything literally that happens, what actually happens is starting not to matter anymore. What matters is how it's presented and someone's opinion of it. So we're literally, without exaggeration, like really, this isn't symbolic at all. This is literal. We're living in times where, like, nothing that happens matters in its sense. It's meaningless. It needs an opinion. Other, but the opinion distorts reality, all opinions of it, and still the opinions matter. Well, on one hand, yes, life and the universe is designed this way where we need to interpret everything that happens in life, and that's the magic of life. But unconsciously, right? This must be unconscious, or at least as in at the borderline of conscious, as lead, like the semi-dream state. But what's happening today is ridiculous because I don't I honestly fail the words. I don't know how to explain the ridiculousness. And as I said, it doesn't have to be anything bad, doom and gloom news, anything bad. It can be literally anything. So what happens never matters. How it's presented, it always, that's the darkest possible side of Neptune. And what does it, that's the mass psychosis, because on one hand it polarizes people, some people, and other people are shocked, as in this, like this can't be real, because that means everyone's mostly insane, and the insane make everyone insane, so the world is insane. Yes, that's also part of this game, but this is exactly why Neptune and Saturn are going back into Pisces. To address the insanity where, okay, life is supposed to be an illusion, but, you know, there's a big difference if it's an illusion or if it's like an aggressive lie. Because Uranus in Gemini, freedom of speech, well, you can imagine how the restriction of freedom of speech goes against this aggressive multi-dimensional reality where the opinion matters. So the two are clashing. But even within the same uh, side of the coin. So that means that we're not really polarizing this anymore. On a quantum level, there is an error does not compute in reality. So on a quantum level, in the ether, if you will, if in the astral, or however you call it, two elements want to possess the same value at the same time. So that's a clash, that's a conflict, that's something that must be resolved. And the way it manifests in our world is the this is where I'm not referring to the physical sides of wars, but rather the psychological one and the cover tops and all of that. So we see that play out on the so this is what Neptune and Saturn are doing. So let's mention a few dates about Neptune. So around the 22nd, 23rd of October 2025, it dips back into Pisces and it comes back to 0 degrees of Aries around 27th of January 2026. So this is Neptune. Now let us focus on the star of this recording, Mercury, because this is how it leads up to big tension. So on the 18th of July, we find Mercury at 15 degrees of Leo. How relevant? Because usually 15 degrees, the one half of the zodiac, especially when some kind of personal planet hits it in a relevant way, and this is a relevant way. Fork in the road, crossroads. What do I decide? What follows next? Tossing the coin many times. Leo is the sign of risk. Leo is the sign of the heart. Leo is the sign of passion, creativity, children, but also anger, also hatred, right? So, royalty, leaders, the big VIPs, the big people, the world leaders. Mercury, planet of the mind, and everything that has to do with it. So, this alone tells us something big. Now, around this 18th of July, so give and take a few days, this can feel like a breakdown. This can feel like an overload. This can feel like the mind and heart, Leo, refusing to play along because the information that we're getting is so ridiculous. And I am choosing the right wording here. It's really ridiculous, but because it's coming from the most serious representatives of humankind, those which need to keep Capricorn intact. If those are, well, there's more options of what to believe. Insane, malevolent, very, very unprofessional and one of these, or victims of something, I don't know. Well, it's not good news for anyone. So Mercury is acknowledging all of this. This is how it starts its retrograde. Um, it's trouble. Trouble's brewing. Or this cannot lead to something positive. So, Mercury retrograde, especially in Leo, let's ignore aspects. Anger, frustration, I had enough. Saturn retrograde, I'm not gonna wait anymore. I'm gonna take action because it's still in Aries. I'm gonna take something into my own hands because Saturn in Aries is not that comfortable. Either it means very strong self limitations, the walls are impossibly high, or it means no limitations at all. Law doesn't matter, Saturn is the law. Law doesn't matter, rules don't matter, morality doesn't matter. What was said and promised nothing matters. Or the opposite. We make it ridiculously impossible something to overcome an obstacle. One or the other, usually. But whenever Saturn is in Aries, things are tense, things are heightened emotions, conflict, confrontation. Sometimes even if this energy is purely self-contained, ridiculous decisions. Why did I do this? Or ridiculous, like a moment when someone wants to try out some extreme lengthing or some extreme religious practice, some extreme healthcare, something extreme. And then after they tried it out and they could even have a positive experience, don't get me wrong. Why did I actually do this? To test my limits, to test. That's also Saturn and Aries energy, but as I said, um, there's so many intense things going on that this cannot be kept as simple and as light as chances are it's gonna be heavy. So conflictual energy. Mercury is gonna rage. Heavy words. Truth coming out. Truth bombs. Confessions, declarations, the heart. Dishing everything out. So, this takes place. This isn't one day. This is a period. So this takes place between July the 18th and August 11th. However, this is even a larger, more extended period than this, because many astrologers include Mercury's shadow, but Mercury's shadow is subtle hint. So it usually is a subtle hint, either we get it or don't. Usually the period itself that matters. So this period is going to be intense in many ways. So like with every Mercury retrograde, try and think or calm yourself down before you speak, before you answer, before you reply, before you react, before you make a decision. And when I say decision, this, as I said, this can even be decision you hold with yourself, your inner counsel, with issues like, do I radically change my hairdo? No. The answer is no. Considering it, studying it, thinking about it, using apps to test out, like filters, how would different hairstyles suit you. Any experimentation is a big plus and it will have benefits. Connecting to people, asking opinions, searching for what's yes plus absolutely. Making a decision, going forward is a no-go because Leo rules hair. But we can include anything aesthetic that is susceptible, do I love it or not? The same goes for anything sensual. Keep in mind that Uranus in the sign of Gemini energizes deeply, infinitely, big time the foreigner, the stranger, the sexy, attractive, weirdo, unusual, extravagant, the bad boy, bad girl, but with a sexy smile, says all the right things, has a rich fantasy. Because I don't necessarily want to use the word lie, but tuning up, amping up reality is more like it. The Casanovas or that girl or so going slowly, giving a chance is okay. Committing to something is absolutely no go. Don't commit. Wait until that 11th of August, or if you can, the end of August altogether. Trying, communicating, analyzing, being open. As I said, giving a chance, going with the flow, but cautiously, diligently, sanely, not being sucked up in love at first sight. or evaluate it, how dangerous it is. Because being sucked up in love at first sight, fully knowing it's an illusion and it will just turn into laughter, that's one way of doing it. Okay, have fun. Being sucked up into love at first sight, being convinced Neptune retrograde, it's the one, it's forever, this is it. Now that's the hard, I guarantee you it's a heartbreak. Leo, Mercury retrograde. And let me get to the reality of things. On During this Mercury retrograde, Venus squares Mars. Venus in Gemini. So exactly Mercury's daytime expression. Mars in Virgo, Mercury's nighttime expression. So, how should I say this square between Venus and Mars is pointing to Mercury is the deliverer. Mercury is, well, in a bit of a pickle here. If it, well, Venus and Gemini can be the deception, the lie, you know what I mean. Mars and Virgo can mean not being open, seeing through the illusion. Why should I give in to love at first sight when I know already, I can determine, I just know it's just a laughing stock, it's just something futile. So, what do we do with the square? Well, with Venus and Gemini, we know that it's not meant forever, it's just an illusion. But we also tune down Mars in the sense that I know can't I play a game? How much can I get hurt when I'm not taking it seriously? When I'm more of a Fata Morgana or illusion than that person is to me, because I'm aware. Play the game. All is good. It's just the game. Ha ha ha. Who knows where it leads? Uranus and Gemini. So you know what I'm saying. And the same goes with any big purchase. But how should I say? Totally shutting out the possibility of purchase, Mars and Virgo. I don't have the money, so why should I even why should I even negotiate? Why should I even go into? That's a no-go. Because you don't know Uranus and Gemini chaos, the creative chaos. Someone's misfortune. They'll sell it half price, but they need it now. Not 5 minutes later, not five. Now. Do you have the money? Yes, it's yours. Give it the money. Buy. Once in a lifetime opportunity. That would have been totally cast out, shut out, nullified, zero, if, you know, Saturn in the sign of Aries. No go from the beginning because I don't have the money. But then again, not having the money realistically and expecting the chance to drop into your life, that's also a fake attitude. That's like not being very, very serious about it. Chances are a scammer will hit you. This is where you need to go with the flow. You need to be adaptable. You need to be both, a tiny bit that Venus and Gemini, the hope, even if it's not realistic. I'll risk it because I don't know. Life is life. But Mars and Virgo in a realistic and, how should I say, down to earth way. If you didn't get the too good to be true, deal at this moment, no worries whatsoever, because you know more. Trying to find out, to see what's out there at the in the market, seeing what's available, speaking to people, maybe going travel, Mercury, right? And Gemini, going to the shops or this place, that place, to see what's where, or there's a house on the market. You don't have the money, but you still choose to view it. You don't know what inspiration, what communication, what knowledge, know-how, practicality you leave with, even if the deal is not closed. So, sorry to sound like a broken record, but knowing how to work with this mutable square, because it's Venus and Mars, value money, love, romance, is it worth it? Is it not? What do I choose? What's right and wrong? Is definitely going to be part of everyone's life, because that's the nature of Gemini, and then Mars and Virgo wants to get everything right. And then Mercury retrograde, the disher out in the sign of the heart, Leo. We consult the heart, we consult the mind, we consult the gut intelligence, Virgo, we consult everything possible, spirit, tarot cards, astrologer, everything's included under this Mercury retrograde here, and that consultation is good. Impulsively doing something that you'll regret is not good. May that be angry word, a mindless purchase, falling into love in a stupid, sorry, way, or in a totally illusionary way, or we must, under this Mercury retrograde, we must stay very, 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 very sane. Very sane. Very self-disciplined. Because then everything is gonna be fine. Because let's get to the good sides of this Mercury retrograde. So good for creativity. So good for DIYs. So good for trying to improvise, innovate, repurpose, redo, re anything. But that needs to have, well, a little bit of study behind it. Study, personal research, personal ambition, personal days, monk days, when we we don't necessarily do, we just try, we learn, we motivate ourselves. But that also needs to have imagination, fantasy, other people, Gemini energy, like partner, brother, sister, neighbor, bro, not blood bro, but the bro, sis, others who are Gemini type of people for us in our lives. The one who we always call, the one who has the information, one who has the fantasy, one who some we call for help. And then slowly and surely the project comes together. Whatever we need to repair, fix comes together. And this is also where second opinion under this Mercury retrograde is very important. Let's say, well, Leo fire, right? So things break, especially burnout. Your battery died forever. You go to the repairs shop, it says, better buy a new tablet or whatever, because the battery's dead forever. Don't go to another one, or go to a friend, or maybe they will say, oh, we can improvise. Not the original, but there's an improvisation that everyone knows of, and it does the job, even if it will have a side effect, as in something won't be perfect. Anyway, so this type of mutable modus operandi really, really advantages this Mercury retrograde. But Mercury holds a sextile with me, an exact to the degree sextile with Venus when it goes retrograde. So that's really good. It also holds semi-sextile with Mars, so it's, even though it's good, it's not easy, but it's good. It's productive. It's wise. Because the heart knows what it knows, feels what it feels. And Venus in the sign of Gemini, it processes this mentally in any way it needs, even psycho-emotionally. But there's an even better side, believe it or not, to this Mercury retrograde. Because this Mercury stands still, meaning that symbolism of any planet that does this is magnified, amplified, very, very strong, okay, shadowy a little bit, but Mercury will return here. When will it return? Um, Let me just check my notes because no, I don't. 25th of August. Yeah, I found it. So Mercury will return to this 15th degree of Leo on the 25th of August this year, of course. So that can be a massive decision moment or launching moment or whatever the Mercury retrograde has done for you, the conclusion moment. And why is that important? Well, on one hand, as I said, that 15 degree is the half of the sign. So usually fork in the road, decision, A or B. The other thing, it hosts a fixed star. A very powerful and important fixed star. Um, this fixed star named, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Dubhe, Dub, or I don't know. But it's the bear. It's part of Ursa Major constellation, so the bear, big bear. Um, it's also part of the seven Hindu sages. It's magical, it's mystical, it's powerful, it's ancient. Ancient in the sense that very known and used by the ancients. And amongst other things, it also has the humor of Mercury. So Mercury activating it gives the mercurial expression of the fixed star a really strong highlight. And this fixed star is associated with Isis, with Bast, with goddess energy, very strong feminine energy. So the feline, you know what I mean? And this rules astrology, psychic awareness, psychic powers, uh, not necessarily just in divination sense, in just knowing, being able to psychically, empathically pick up signals, signs. So it's very, very good for psychic orientation. Where do I stand? It's really good to answer, where in my journey am I right now? What's ahead of me on my spiritual journey, etc. It's really good for these types of energies, and it is also seen by the ancients as heaven's pivot. So really, really powerful. And it is also destructive. But this also plays into Mercury retrograde symbolism that it needs to, well, burn certain bridges, uh, cancel certain contracts, end certain friendships, end certain connections, or Mercury retrograde. Some come back from the past in a way you could not expect it. Because, yes, Mercury retrograde in Leo, the heart. So, exes, especially if that ex is father, mother of my child, or you have a creation together, you have something together. So this brings, and it's not just exes, colleagues, or old love, or anything that is Leo related. Even certain roles that you used to play and no longer play, where the spotlight was on you. So this can even be applied to work situations. Of course, it depends where this falls in your personal chart. So, and we'll also see this fixed stars, Mercury conjunct this fixed star, play out on the world stage. So something big is gonna happen in the astrological world. A big astrologer does what? Usually, because it's Leo, it's gonna be in the spotlight. But also, mystically speaking, we are gonna be seeing something is gonna be the subject of this great discussion, besides the Dalai Lama. Besides that. But it's also gonna be the subject of great conflict, so yeah. And within this Mercury retrograde period, I find the 1st of August a very important date because this is the moment when. So let's actually go to the 1st of August. Here we are on the 1st of August. Well, they actually make it 31st of July, 1st and 2nd of August. This is when the Mercury Cazimi takes place. So Mercury conjunct the Sun, Mercury into the heart of the Sun. Sun at home in the sign of Leo. Very, very powerful energy. The fire is on. Anytime Sun conjuncts Mercury, it's a clarity aspect. It clarifies things. Prophetic, foresight. Uh yes, many times it does come through as a very heavy number of days when we either need to brainstorm, in this case, more heart storm, ego storm. This Mercury is a very, very self-centered energy, both in a not so nice sense, that where we were egotic, self-centered, narcissistic, selfish, is really gonna bite us. But also we are where we were the opposite, foolishly altruistic, it's gonna come back and bite us. Why didn't you serve the self? uh but at the same time also in a good sense, where some things in life need to be self-centered. Your dream, your project, your baby, your child, your something that is really just yours and is meant to be. You need to be present. You need to give energy to that. You need to give everything to that, right? So Mercury Kazemi highlights that. It emphasizes that. It burns. It's hot. It needs attention. It's fevery, even. Know that song Fever, the sexy version of it. Um, so and it's also going to be a sensual energy. Absolutely sexiness. Because Mercury Sun Kazemi, something makes your mind be on fire. Some realization, some either heartbreak or surprise, surprise moment. And of course, it can be also confrontational, aggressive, all of that. Absolutely. Especially that at the time of the Kazemi, where is it? Well, on one hand, Venus just entered Cancer, where it loves being. Venus is very, very comfortable in the sign of Cancer. It loves being there. It is an energy of the muses, inspiration, um, a love, a family, comfort. When life is joyous, when emotionally we are fed. However, it immediately squares Saturn and her higher octave Neptune, which means a heavy decision, which means something is in the way of our happiness. Something is in the way of our comfort, our sense of belonging. Something threatens our, I don't know, family. And sadly, it's not even a ridiculous example because on the world stage, put this into something threatens families. Yeah. However, this is Venusian energy. So this is when it becomes not just obvious, but a decision is made in that sense, including the world stage, because 0 to 2 of cardinals, Venus is there, Saturn, Neptune are there. So it's on. It's very, very on. Um, but personally speaking, this is a big relationship. Sorry, a big decision in a relationship. I wanted to say, do I leave the relationship? Do I commit? Saturn is commitment. Do I commit? How will my family feel about this? Or a commitment in love. You need to move. Leave country, leave job, leave house, leave parents. It's all good and positive part of life, but it's still heavy. Still a hard decision. So do I sell my house? Cancer rules real estate, Venus money. Something happens with real estate. Big time. It's on fire. It will also cause many yeah, obviously in the Middle East. Is it my land or yours, and who gets the money, right? So that is gonna be very, very heated. It's not a very comfortable and easy energy, even though it's very, very productive. And finally, at the very end of Mercury retrograde, wait, no, yeah, I need to go to 11th of August. Here we are. So at the very, very end of Mercury retrograde, well, on one hand, look at this. The two benefics, Venus and Jupiter, so the planets which bestow blessings and benevolence and happiness and joy and all that. Jupiter, very powerful in Cancer. Venus, the same, loves Cancer, conjunct. The two benefics in their best position together. And let's call it a trine, even if it's too wide. Trine the moon, trine the north node in Pisces. The moon is not wide. The trine with the moon in Pisces is real. So something really positive, a blessing, can even be a miracle energy. This can even be a proper miracle that we see, like a Fatima, like the miracle in Spain where the Virgin was seen. This can be very tied to the Virgin. This can be an energy where the Virgin appears somewhere. In any of her forms, I don't just mean Christian, Guanyin, or whatever, the Astrea, or you know what I mean. And something else supports this heavily. So Mercury is a planet which moves air. You know, has a it's water, but it's air. It's anyway. It is always comfortable in air signs. Let's just call it like that. So we have Mars in Libra. Mars himself is not very comfortable in Libra, but it's not really a problem. Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. That's a trine. That's a big air trine. However, we have Uranus with Sedna. That's a grand air trine. That's a really, really good energy. So besides the heaviness, besides the intensity of the Mercury retrograde period, at the very end we get something really rewarding. And this plays into the miraculous part of the Venus Jupiter conjunction. This is where miracles can happen. Um, the Sun also quincunxes the North Node in Pisces, again, miracle energy. The power of mercy, the power of compassion, the power of love does something. Something surprising. Pluto and Mars trines are always fated. This is where a trine is an easy energy, a flowy energy. It means nothing prevents fate from taking action. Because a square many times is where fate challenges. I'm not gonna dish out this or that until this and that happens. The challenge is here. Under a trine, it's flowing, nothing prevents fate. And Uranus, the trigger, the truth, the magnetism, in Gemini, the person, the people, the communication, the good news, the technology, some AI or something happens. An invention changes the world. A communication changes the world. Something dished out, a secret coming out changes the world. Pisces is a secret and hidden and ancient. And as I said, Jupiter and Venus in Cancer, it serves the mother, the people, families, the land, security, safety, nurture, love, all of that. It's very divine feminine energy, this Jupiter and Venus conjunction. This is very strong, not just goddess energy, mother goddess, the mother, the sacred, the non-conditional. This isn't the typical I'm a queen. No, no queen, not the queen, the mother, the sacred mother. Um, so just a sec. Because this conjunction is taking place on a very strong, powerful fixed star at 13 degrees of Cancer, Jiban, or I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so it's called the Two Jackals. Now, this is a mixed energy because it's not very fortunate, but it does give very strong artistic talent. It gives power over emotions manipulation, right? But it does serve the truth. It's a very strong awakening energy because it's strongly analytical. That's why it has power over emotions, because it knows how emotions work. It's a very strong psychoanalytical energy which gives power over this, so power over emotions, which is many times not always the safest thing in the hands of exactly in the hands of who. Um, it's also an energy which rules poisons, so biological warfare or something cancer water related comes into play. And it's worthy to mention that this is a binary star, so there is a very strong duality here, and this is of the nature of Saturn or Mars. So I don't want to say malefic, but I rather want to say that it really depends on how we use it. It can be powerful in the sense, in a bad sense. It can be powerful in a good sense. Because Mars and Saturn, what's common with them? Authority, policing, but also in the best possible sense. And these two planets, more at the exact moment of Mercury uh, standing still in the sky to go direct this time, more Jupiter is on Sirius, uh, one of the most important fixed stars. Basically, it is nicknamed the galactic sun. It is the gateway of nurture. So, of course, Isis, the goddess, the mother. That's why it's really, really important. So, yes. Oh, and for Sirius is the dog star, right? So, when something big takes place on Sirius, usually people get pets. The dog, the cat, but more like this is like canine energy. Blessing comes from the dog. Or the dog. Anyway, dogs always bring joy in 10 trillion ways. So associate blessing and dog, how it can play out in your life. So and it's a trine with the moon. The moon rules Cancer. So it's so good. Jupiter rules Pisces, so it's even mutual reception here. It's so good energy. Really good. And one last thing I want to check here. The sun is also on a fixed star, which is another fixed star of the Hindu sages. So, in a sense, it ties in with that 15 degree of Leo, where the bear was. Um, this star is also part of Ursa Major, and this is quite fortunate, and this is also similar to the nature of Mercury, Saturn, and Mars at the same time. So this fixed star gives power, power of the heart, power of emotions. This is when they say the power of love. Love can do any. This fixed star is actually notorious about that. Um, it gives very strong self-discipline, determination, devotion, uh, leadership, love of commanding, uh, power in authority, but in a good way. So this is usually the hero energy, the responsible leader, the responsible warrior. So again, this is where the sun illuminates this. Very good energy. I really like that. And also after a full moon in the sign of Aquarius. So my guidance and advice here is, yes, this Mercury retrograde is not going to be the easiest energy, but it comes with the potential of miracles almost. It really does. I would also like to look at if there's any asteroid influencing this energy. And at the very end of the Mercury retrograde period, I don't see anything all that relevant. Except that a finger of God aspect is received by Haumea in the sign of Scorpio. Again, sacred feminine energy, regeneration, renewal, inventivity, ingenuity. But in Scorpio, first let's get the ugly out. Let's get the secrets out. Let's expose things for what they are. And because Haumea rules Hawaii, right? No. Haumea is strongly linked to Hawaii. That's what I wanted to say. my personal observation showed me that many times when Hamia is strongly aspected by a strong relevant planet, for example, like Saturn, Mars, or something of such, Hawaii or that region is actually in the spotlight. So something happens, maybe a storm, maybe an earthquake, or maybe something big hits the news about the Maui disaster. Anyway, I think I'm gonna leave it at this. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm wishing everyone patience, diligence, resilience, and a lot of wisdom for this Mercury retrograde period, and a lot of love and understanding for one another. Until next time, bye for now.